We didn't decide right away that we would move into a smaller home. We found minimalism 11 years ago. About 2 or 3 years into minimizing our possessions in the same house that we lived in, we moved states. We moved from Vermont to Arizona. And when we made the change, we decided that we would move into a smaller home. To give you an idea of what that meant for us at that stage of our life, we were a family of 4. My kids were young in elementary school. We had a 2,300 square foot home in Vermont, and we moved into a 1,600 square foot home in Arizona. And we lived there for 7 or 8 years now. Our kids have grown up in this home. I knew I wanted to live in a smaller home because of some of the benefits that it would bring to my family, but now that we've been there for almost a decade, let me list out some of the greatest benefits that we've found living in a smaller home. Number 1, it is easier to maintain. I think of things like fixing stuff and repairing things, replacing a roof, like the maintenance stuff, things that I'm terrible at, by the way. It's easier to do in a smaller home because there's less of them. Number 2, it's easier to clean. There's less floor space, there's less shelf space, there's less windows to clean, anything and everything when it comes to cleaning. All the chores are easier in a smaller home. Number 3, it's less expensive, which means our mortgage payments are less. It means that I took on less debt to make the change, less risk in my life. It means I'm able to pay it off sooner and quicker. All the benefits that would come from not taking on too big of a mortgage. Number 4, I find that our family bonds easier and better in a smaller home when there's less square footage. I know some parents, and they say things like, yeah, now that my kids are older, we just want them to have their own space in the house. And I don't know, I kind of enjoy the fact that if there's a conflict in the family, that someone can't just rush off to their wing of the house and be alone. But when there is any conflict that's happening in the family, like, we have to sort it out, we have to figure it out, and we have to learn how to coexist together. I think it's been very good for my kids, it's been very good for my wife as well. Number 5, less environmental impact in almost every imaginable way, which is good for the planet, it's good for us, it's good for our kids, it's good for our grandkids. Another benefit of living in a smaller home. Number 6, I have found a smaller home to be mentally freeing for a lot of the reasons I've already mentioned. There's less things to worry about, less things to break, costs less when it does need to be repaired. Just more important things, I think, to think about, and more important things to worry about than the house that I live in and how am I going to take care of it or how am I going to maintain it. Number 7, because I live in a smaller home, I'm able to own a higher quality home. At least the things inside the home can be higher quality, if that makes any sense. So when we moved to Arizona, there was a specific neighborhood that we wanted to move in. And our strategy going in was, I want to find the smallest, highest quality home that I could find. When we moved into the house, my wife wanted to replace the carpets, which when we had a big home would have been very expensive and very daunting, just the idea of it. But because our home was a third smaller, changing the carpets was far less expensive and far less of an investment that needed to take place. And so our smaller home was able to be a higher quality home, which I love. Number 8, there's less temptation to accumulate. We tend to fill the spaces that we live in with stuff. And so we just tend to buy things to fill the different rooms and different closets and different shelves. And because we had less of that in our new house, less temptation to accumulate, which I love, obviously, as I try to live a minimalist life. Number 9, a wider market to resell the house. We're not looking to move. I love the house that I'm in, but when the time comes to resell it, There'll be a much greater market for it because I haven't bought a really large house that's priced out of a lot of people's price points. So I just love knowing that when it comes time to sell, it's going to be easier to sell. Number 10, man, all these things together, more time, more money, more energy. I have more opportunity to focus on the things that matter most in life. And I have long since passed the time in life where I just wanted to own the biggest house in the nicest neighborhood in town. I know that there are far more important things in my life, family and experiences and making a difference in the world. And I'm able to do all of that because I live in a smaller house. I don't know what your current living arrangement is. A smaller house may not be the best move if your family is growing. But for most people, I think in a world where our houses keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I think it's important to take a step back and think through what might be the benefits if I were to live in a smaller home than I do currently. I know I love it. You probably will too. And hey, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to subscribe, share them with your friends.